Obviously, very exciting times here. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so at the top there, you're going to find a link that is speaking about um, the blood moon that is coming overnight, March 2nd, really the morning of March 3rd. And the reason it caught our attention is obviously, we've been speaking about the coming resurrection of King David, the true Messiah, on the Spring Equinox, March 9th, 2026. And um, I saw the post last night about this blood moon, and it immediately made me think about uh, the prophet Joel. And so let's start there, and then we can go into a little about the history of blood moons. What do you think about that, brother?
Oh yeah, no, that's a good place to start.
Because
How
it's
this all
really,
fits in.
yeah, something that obviously we've been very humbled, obviously, at all of these revelations that have come, since he revealed the true calendar, and again, today is the true seventh day, Shabbat Shalom. Um, and being on the true calendar has allowed us to receive these revelations, which started September 10th, 2024. Again, you can see the picture in my PTR. Again, at that time, I was swimming in the toilet. My attention was fixated on Matthew 24:30, Mark 13:26, right? The plagiarized prophecies. And that's really what we're going to talk about here, about how important it is for them that you believe the book of the New Testament. And so we're going to go over some really interesting stuff today that I hope everyone will find really enlightening here as we watch the greatest story never told unfold here. Um, but I missed the prophet Elijah's return. Oh, I didn't change my PTR. Let me change my PTR real quick. Oh no, I did. Um, I missed the prophet Elijah's return because I was asleep. I was assuming it was going to be in the evening. Um, but at that point, didn't understand it was the prophet Elijah. I was attributing it to JC. Again, the sign of the Son of Man, 24:30, Mark 13:26. And I remember being so disturbed at not seeing it, because how many people were waiting for it. I remember having this conversation with Brother James, but I said that, I was so grateful that I'd rather understand it than to have seen it. But I didn't understand it back then either. Only recently did I realize that that was the fulfillment of the first part of the two-step prophecy before the end, before the coming of the dreadful day of Ao, which is the ravenous bird from the east, the prophet Elijah returning, who will then resurrect King David from the grave. And so, if we go to Joel chapter 2,
90%.
verse 31.
Oh, we're going to start.
Hello?
No, go ahead.
I just want to read verse 31, but yeah, we'll read the whole thing.
Yeah, we're going to go to 31 and then go back to the beginning.
Yeah, we're going to read this whole prophecy here. But just put this in perspective, why this caught our attention. This is what the prophet Joel says, chapter 2, verse 31. The sun shall be churned into darkness and the moon into blood before the great and terrible day of Ao come. Now, I'm of the opinion that they probably added the sun shall be churned into darkness here. I do believe that is coming, but as we'll see, that seems to be prior to the judgment at the valley of Jehoshaphat, which is Gog Magog. And so what I think they've done here is they've inserted the sun churning dark, right? Which again could possibly happen before the second Exodus as well. Remember the ninth plague, the darkness over the land. But I feel like this focus here prior to the great and terrible day of Ao, which is the resurrection of the Messiah who is going to bring judgment on the world, is really focusing on this blood moon. So the moon shall churn into blood before the great and terrible day of Ao come. And so notice here, on the morning of March 3rd, we are set to have a blood moon, and we believe that David will be resurrected at sunrise on March 9th.
Well, let's say this too, that this is the only time the blood moon is mentioned in scriptures. Now we can go to Revelations and we can see it there. And but again, remember with the toilet in the back, the Gospels, there is truth in the Gospels, but they took it from the front of the book, the front and the middle. But so it's not like I just want to, the world is. We were just talking about this earlier. How many times the blood moon has shown up in the last 100 years, and it's just in the last 100 years or so. It's numerous times. So everybody's used to hearing and seeing about this. So these things are. We'll talk about that a little bit.
Yeah,
how they're getting ready, people ready for all this stuff. Go ahead.
yeah, because you think about it. So, like you were mentioning earlier, brother, that you mentioned that this phenomenon of blood moons seems to be a recent occurrence over the past 100 years or so, right?
Yeah.
And so my theory here is the only reason it's a recent occurrence, recent phenomenon, is because they didn't have the technology to tint the moon a shade of red. And I think the way we're going to understand this deception is by just watching the blood moon on the morning of March 3rd. Something tells me that this blood moon will look very, very different from all the blood moons the world has ever seen.
Yeah.
And that should be the first sign here that we are on the brink of something remarkable.
Oh yeah. It's just it's in the key there in the scripture in verse 31 is the word before.
Mhm.
That this is just the kickoff. This is the kickoff of this whole thing starting right here with Dao and second Exodus and the whole 9 yards.
And I do want to emphasize that if the blood moon is the morning of March 3rd,
Mm-hmm.
that's 7 days from the resurrection.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
You got to explain.
really, really fascinating stuff here.
Yeah, just for others who haven't been here, just explain the resurrection on the 9th real quick. That it's what day is that, and what's the significance of that?
Yeah, so why we've settled in on March 9th, again, the same calendar that said September 10th, 2024 was the true Feast of Trumpets, and that's the morning the light appeared. Again, Deuteronomy 33:26, Isaiah 9:2, Isaiah 19:1, Psalm 68:4, and I believe there's one more. What is that one that I always forget? Um,
Was it Zechariah?
No, I want to say it's Second Samuel, Second Samuel 22:11 or something like that. I'll find it here. But the point is, again, plagiarized in Mark 24:30, Mark 13:26, right? The sign of the Son of Man, and then all the tribes of the earth shall mourn, right? The reason our attention was on the sky at that point was, it's really important to understand that Genesis 15:13 was not fulfilled in Egypt. It really, really important, guys, because like really think about that teaching, and that's going to be my next podcast on the mathematics. But let's just think about that teaching. What they're telling us is that Genesis 15, 13, and 14 were fulfilled before Moses even wrote down the prophecy, which I find strange that God identifies himself to us in Isaiah 46, 9 and 10 by telling us the end of the story from the beginning, right? Um,
Yeah.
So isn't it remarkable that everything has already been fulfilled, including Deuteronomy 18:15, right? Fulfilled right there, Joshua. Even though the children of Israel sit in exile for not hearkening to any prophet, we're going to pretend that that has been fulfilled already, right? Um, and so that's why our attention was because so again, the idea there being if the 400 years uh, that he promised to Abraham are here in America again, Deuteronomy 28:68, the second captivity. And then you notice this is something really interesting because in Daniel chapter 9, the famous prophecy, uh, I'm going to put actually, I'm going to add to my PTR that, um, let me find that, brother, the PDF that I made of the end of the prophecy here, the end of the evening vision.
Mm.
Um, Give me 1 second. I'll find that right.
Well, while you're doing that, I wanted to, I'll never forget the day you called me up the next morning on, what would it be? It would be September 11th. And you started yelling at me on the phone. You said, "We missed it. We missed it."
Oh no, it was the same day. It was the same day in the afternoon.
It was in the afternoon. Yeah, we
Yeah,
missed
same day in the afternoon. Yeah, you were taking a nap, and
it.
I couldn't get a hold of anybody. I couldn't get a hold of anybody. You know,
I
I
said,
was
"Miss."
calling people that I don't even talk to, and I was telling them what happened, and I can't even imagine what they thought how crazy this guy was. Right? Like, what is this guy calling me for? Telling me these things.
I said,
Um,
"Miss what?" Yeah, you said we missed Elijah.
Yeah, well, so we didn't know it was Elijah, right?
Oh, we didn't know.
At that point we were swimming in the toilet thinking it was JC, right? Again, sign of the Son of Man, Mark 24:30, Mark 13:26. But the idea was that as the 400 years that he promised to Abraham drew to a close, God flies through the sky reminding his people that he's coming to get them, and in the process drops off the prophet Elijah. And so um that's why our attention was on the sky back then. And obviously the Feast of Trumpets, right? This, there's, I forget the verses where it talks so clearly about um, blow ye the trumpet, right? Let everybody know. Um, and if you look at Matthew 24:30, I'm pretty sure that one even says with the great sound of a trumpet, right?
Let me. I
Um,
want to touch on that right there because if you go to YouTube and pull up trumpet sounds around the world, and I don't know how many videos that I've seen. I wasn't looking for it. I just came across it, but there's all these videos of people hearing trumpet sounds in the sky. And they don't know where it's coming from in that. So that's another prelude that they're sounding these trumpet sounds. So when Tao does raise up, because he's going to raise up by a trumpet sound. So I just wanted to add that to you when you were talking about the trumpets.
yeah, so I added the image to my PTR. And again, I'm just showing the final 10 jubilees of the Babylonian exile. Again, which we know is 70 jubilees. 70 times 50 is 3,500 years, right? And so why don't we start here? Because I think this is a really beautiful place. This prophecy that, again, the New Testament wants to attribute to JC, right? But there's some really glaring contradictions in the translations that we notice, right? So let's go to Daniel 9:24 to 9:27. And again, I just want to emphasize the nonsense that the world teaches us, right? Remember, Daniel's at the beginning of this chapter says, verse 2, I just want to read it. In the first year of his reign being Darius, the son of Ahasuerus, not Cyrus the Great Deception, okay? So this is after the children of Israel were quote unquote already regathered after the 70 years, okay? Look at what Daniel says in verse 2. I, Daniel, understood by the books the number of years whereof the word of came to Jeremiah the prophet that he would accomplish 70 jubilees in the desolations of Jerusalem. If we pretend that says years, look at what happens, okay? Then, as Daniel prays, beautiful prayer, right? And then Gabriel comes, and Gabriel says, I am here to give you wisdom and understanding. Look at this. Verse 22, actually, verse 21. And yea, while I was speaking in prayer, even the man Gabriel, whom I had seen in the vision at the beginning, being caused to fly swiftly, touched me about the time of the evening oblation. Verse 22. And he informed me and talked with me and said, O Daniel, I am now come forth to give you skill and understanding. Verse 23. At the beginning of your supplications the commandment came forth, and I am come to show you, for you are greatly beloved. Now, therefore, understand the matter and consider the vision. So notice, Gabriel now tells him what this vision means. But according to the world's theology, Gabriel is telling him something that was already fulfilled under Cyrus the Great Deception. It makes no sense, people. It makes absolutely no sense. Okay. So now let's consider the vision. Okay. Daniel 9:24. 70 jubilees. Again, 70 times 50 is 3,500 years. Let's keep that in mind as we progress down this prophecy. 3,500 years are determined upon your people and upon your holy city to finish the transgression and to make an end of sins and to make reconciliation for iniquity and to bring in everlasting righteousness and to seal up the vision and prophecy and anoint the most holy.
All right. Can you can you stop there for a second?
Absolutely.
To bring in perpetual righteousness. All right, so let's look at something. So this is telling us 70 weeks, right? And these people are going to come back from Babylon. They're going to build the second temple, and they're going to bring in perpetual righteousness with the building of the second temple.
And perpetual, just for those of us who might be a little confused, let's look up the definition of perpetual. So, because we can ask a question, right? We can ask a question. Perpetual definition. The definition of perpetual is never ending. Brother, I have a question for you. Do we have everlasting righteousness at this moment?
No,
we don't.
So let me ask you, why did they build the second temple when they were rushing in perpetual righteousness, and he destroyed it again? The so-called Romans destroyed it.
And again, just to emphasize, the second temple directly contradicts the words of the prophet Hosea.
And then Cyrus, the knucklehead, so-called, he's the one that's going to send a decree to build the second temple.
Pagan king who worshipped Marduk. He's going to be God's anointed and God's shepherd. It's remarkable. It's a remarkable story.
So Cyrus is rushing in perpetual righteousness, and somehow made a mistake because everything's destroyed, right?
It was like a pump fake. It was a pump fake of righteousness.
It was a Hail Mary that didn't work.
Yeah. Okay, so now,
go ahead.
So now let's continue, right? Because here you're going to start to see some of the nonsense, right? Like verse 25 here. Things we have to be honest with, right? These things have been corrupted to make us think things that aren't true, right? But notice this, okay? Verse 25. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to rebuild Jerusalem. So I just want to emphasize, that is the same starting gun as the commandment to destroy it.
Yeah.
When God commands to destroy it, he commands it's going to be rebuilt, right? So it's the same starting gun, okay? At the middle, right? At 3,500 years, okay? And my apologies for saying that about verse 25. It's verse 26 that's the one that's very corrupted. But notice what it says here. So from that commandment to restore and to rebuild Jerusalem to Messiah the Prince, shall be 7 and 62 jubilees, which is 69 jubilees.
60.
Okay. And so again, if you notice that the FBI has been warning about the rise of a black messiah here in this country since late 1960s. I think it was the COINTELPRO documents, right? Um, that were released where it talked about, their objective to prevent the rise of a black messiah. So you notice, again, remember, they don't have wisdom and understanding. Okay, God is not going to give them wisdom and understanding. They just have the text that's uncorrupted, right? But you notice all this is telling us is that Messiah is not going to come until after 69 jubilees. But as long as Messiah comes after 69 and before 70, this prophecy is fulfilled. And obviously, right now, we're 5 years away from 70 jubilees being fulfilled. So you notice here, Dao is coming here at the very, very end, even though the FBI and stuff have been concerned about it since the 1970s. Notice 50 years ago. Isn't that interesting?
And I want to touch on verse 26 before you get to it, the corrupted part.
Yeah. So you start with 26 because I've rewritten it, right? But I just want to emphasize just the nonsense because we just were told that Messiah comes after 69 jubilees.
Okay.
So how is he going to be cut off after 62? When did he show up? I'm sorry. When does he show up?
He shows up in the middle of the week.
But I'm confused though because if he doesn't come until
I know.
69, who is this that showed up at 62?
Okay, so
You see how there's a glaring contradiction that God left for you?
let's just set the preeminence here is that Aho's word, our Father's word, cannot contradict itself. And when you come across a contradiction that I've seen for the last 25 years, but I just written it off because I didn't understand it. But Deuteronomy 13, chapter 1 through 3, Deuteronomy chapter 13, verse 1 to 3, verse 3. I'm going to do this to see if you love me with all your heart, your mind, and your soul to search this matter out. Because everything that we're talking about, everything in the Bible right now that is, say, a corrupted text, it's not corrupted. It was written by Aho to see if you would love him with all your heart, mind, and soul and search the matter out. Because if
Hallelujah.
because if the whole world is doing it, it's not of him. That's your first rule that you need to follow. If it's
Absolutely. And let's get this the confirmation of that fact from the word of God. Okay. Proverbs 25:2. And even Proverbs 25:2, he allowed them to corrupt. Proverbs 25:2 in the King James, it says, "It is the glory of God to conceal a thing, but the honor of kings is to search out a matter." But if you go to Blue Letter Bible, the word that's used for a thing and the word that's used for a matter are identical. That word, let me pull it up here, is debar. And debar, these are the words, right? Debar means word. So notice what Proverbs 25:2 is actually saying here. And just so I can give you the site of that, it is H1697.
Can't hear it.
Okay, yeah. But the idea there, so the correct translation of Proverbs 25:2 would be, "It is the glory of God to conceal his word, but the honor of kings is to search it out."
Repeat that.
And you also,
Repeat that. You broke up.
okay, so it is the glory of God to conceal his word, but the honor of kings is to search it out.
And hallelujah.
Okay, and then I want to emphasize why people are deceived. Okay, Proverbs 14:6. A scorner seeks wisdom but finds it not. A scorner is a scoffer, a mocker, somebody who doesn't have any faith in the word of God. And so many people believe they believe, right? But they don't actually believe. Okay. And that person will never find wisdom.
Well,
But
that's
notice then what it says. But knowledge is easy to him that understands. Understands what? And this is such an important thing to remember, right? Everything God commands us is not arbitrary, right? The dietary laws are not arbitrary. They're to give us a beautiful, healthy life. Okay. The command to not follow other gods, not arbitrary. The sorrows of those who follow other gods shall increase. Okay. So we have to use that same logic with the original command God gave them. Don't eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Translation, never go to something God created for knowledge. If you have a question, come ask your father. And brother, you want to read your favorite verse, Jeremiah 33:3 for everybody?
call unto me, and I will show you great and mighty things that thou knowest not.
God will show you, not man. Okay. And then notice in the Song of Moses, we have that same language when he's discussing the nation that is going to get his judgment. Okay, I'm going to go down here. Okay, verse 28. Okay, 32:28. People think that this is talking about Israel. This is not talking about Israel. This is talking about Edom, Babylon. For they are a nation void of counsel, neither is there any understanding in them. Verse 29. Oh, that they were wise, that they understood this, that they would consider their latter end. Verse 30. How should one chase 1,000 and two put 10,000 to flight? Now it's talking about the children of Israel, except their rock had sold them and had shut them up. Sure, that's about Israel. But now notice verse 31, we're going back to Edom and Babylon. For their rock is not as our rock, even our enemies themselves being judges. Verse 32, for their vine is of the vine of Sodom and of the fields of Gomorrah. Their grapes are grapes of gall, their clusters are bitter. Verse 33, and their wine is the poison of dragons and the cruel venom of asps. Anyone who's lived in Edom here can understand exactly what that verse is referring to, right? But now notice 34. Is not this laid up in store with me and sealed up among my treasures? And notice right what it says right after that. Verse 35. To me belongs vengeance and recompense. Hallelujah.
Yeah, and I want to go to the toilet here in James 1:6 because there is truth over there. The truth came from the front of the book. But he must be, and I'm going to read this in the NET, but he must ask in faith without doubting. For the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea, blown and tossed to and fro around like the wind, which it means he's unstable in all his ways. You have no foundation to stand on.
And you think about too also what our favorite false prophet said to his disciples, right? Uh, Thomas, you believe because you saw,
Mm.
but blessed is he who believes without seeing. And notice, brother, I don't need to even see this moon on Tuesday to tell you what it's going to be.
Yeah, well, we're gonna show them.
But we're going to see it, and anyone out there who has any doubt, this is the beauty of God, right?
Well, when I say we're gonna show them, I mean I'm gonna go down to South Carolina and get on the ocean, and I'm gonna take pictures of it. So that's that's the best I can do to show people, firsthand. I
Remember,
don't.
how often in your life are the words of the Most High written down, fulfilled before your eyes? I have September 10th, 2024. It looks like we're going to have March 3rd, 2026. And as I was joking with my stiff necked and rebellious Israelites that I love so much, unfortunately, on March 9th, 2026, Edom will not be holding a press conference and declaring to the world that David, the Messiah, has been resurrected and that the words of the Most High are true. And so there's going to be some other things that we think are going to follow shortly thereafter that I think will make it very, very clear. Um, that exactly what we are anticipating has actually unfolded.
Yeah, but they're gonna. What did they say when when they call you all kinds of names and everything, and they're gonna say, "Show me the proof, show me the proof." And I said, like, yeah, like the world's really gonna recognize, hey, he's here, he just woke up.
Yeah, yeah, no, and that's what they say. They say 2 weeks. They were saying 2 weeks until you're a false prophet. And I said, guys, they're not going to hold a press conference, right?
Well, you've
They're
been
not. They're not going to hold a press conference. But now we have the blood moon, which is such a blessing because that's for everyone. Everyone's going to be able to see that here in Edom. Just look up the morning of March 3rd. It looks like it starts around 3 a.m. And then it looks like it finishes around 6 a.m. And I've been pondering with Brother James here, is that going to be the time of the resurrection? Uh, Around the time of the resurrection, like when the blood moon finishes, is that the time on March 9th that David will be resurrected? We believe it's going to be at sunrise. Obviously, we don't know exactly where David's tomb is located. Um, and we can't trust Pharaoh's sunrise calculations that you can find online, right? So there's no way to know that. But we do believe um, that it will be the morning of March 9th, the spring equinox.
And I want to touch on that a little bit. Is that the we're undoubtedly in belief that the promised land is in the U.S. here and in the Utah area. Don't know exactly where it is,
You're
but
talking about Jerusalem because the promised land is west of the Colorado, but actually, he gives them to the Euphrates, which is the Mississippi, right? But
yeah.
Jerusalem, we believe, is in the Utah area. And brother, I would love for you to share a little bit about that Mormon temple and how much older it is than they pretend.
Oh, on that video, yeah. The first what are they got? They got six of those crap boxes out there or whatever the Mormons that they built. But the main temple, the first temple that they built, they said it was started in 1840 and finished in 1885 or something like that. 45 years to build the temple. But again, the way that the temple's built, the intricacy, all the things the technology really didn't exist before that. That has to go back to Tartaria. That's another you know, hole to go down, but I won't go there. But in the meantime, that we got to go to the cave of Machpelah. We got to go to Genesis. We got to go to Abraham's and Sarah, where they were buried at, and then we go to Isaac, and then we go to Jacob, and then we go to Joseph. They're all buried in the same place, and what we believe it's in the Uinta Mountains in Utah, which is right before the Bear River, which is not the Bear River. It's actually um, the Jordan River. So this is where they stopped when Moshe went up, and it's Kings Mountain in the Uinta Mountains. The place to find this information is put the link up, brother of Ayab, with the he's got the series of the Exodus series, 1 through 6. But this cave is, you got to remember that they're Abraham, Isaac, Abraham, Sarah, Isaac, Rebecca, um, Jacob, all these, everyone's buried. Joseph and probably Dao too is buried outside of Jerusalem. They're not in the promised land. It's not going to be till the second Exodus that they enter into it. So we just want you to understand just a few things about that, because there's too much information about that we could talk about for hours over there at the Disneyland and in the Middle East, the Levant, that the crap box that they've created Israel over there. There's too many reasons why it can't be there. Because if you just start looking at the animals in the scriptures, you start looking at the plants in the scriptures, you start looking at the trees, and the dead giveaway is the quiet, still waters. You're talking about the lowest place on earth, and we're Dao in Psalms 20, 23. He says that he loved to, he mentions the quiet, still waters. Well, the quiet, still waters are these high mountain lakes. And the only place you find them is Switzerland, the Western U.S., the Alps, Italy, places like that. So I just want to just put a little pavement on that of exactly what's happening. So, brother, go ahead and take it from there.
Yeah, and I just also wanted to go, even though we have serious issues with, the book of Isaiah, chapter 53, I don't have an issue with 53, chapter 1, verse 1, right? Who has believed our report? And to whom to whom is the arm of Ao revealed? And remember, guys, they've been telling us the story of JC for 2,000 years.
They got a lot of time to perfect it. Now,
And it's not even that. It can't be the truth. These
okay.
visions are sealed until the end. The only reason Brother James Brother James and I are sitting here able to tell you these things is it's because it's go time.
Yeah. A lot of people don't understand the King James. It was revised in the 1850s, 1855. What's the two guys' name? They're eluding me right now. But anyway, they made over 6,000 revisions to the King James. So there was a lot of corrections that they made to in the word. And remember, nothing is done without Aho's approval. I mean, it's him making these changes to see Deuteronomy 13:3. If you love him with all your heart, mind, and soul, and you are going to search out the truth, because you cannot just brush these anomalies underneath the rug. You can't just say, well, he says turn left here, but he says go right there. And I don't know. I've even lost track of how many times that we got written down. Stephanie is here, and I can see you in here. Stephanie, you want to comment on this, but it's when you brought up the names of the children of Dao, and you said, wait a second, Solomon, and you brought that up, and that took us down another journey, and we pounded on that last week, what Stephanie had brought up in those scriptures. And that's 2 Samuel chapter 12, verse 24 and 25. And if you want to learn about that right there and the discrepancies of what's in the book, and then you go to 1 Chronicles 3:5, and it lists Dao or David's children that he had in Jerusalem with Bathsheba. And we know the lineage of the children is always from the oldest to the youngest, and Solomon is listed last. But how can that be when Solomon was the second child? Because David's first child, between that they say, allegedly, the first child died after Dao was on his face for 7 days. And he gets up and showers and he eats. And then the next child is Solomon. But in 1 Chronicles 3:5, Solomon is listed fifth or fourth. So how can that be? So we have a glaring discrepancy between 2 Samuel 12, 24 and 25, and 1 Chronicles 3:5. So
You also have the glaring discrepancy of a man who did the things Solomon did being permitted to build the house of the Most High God.
oh, yeah, look, the abominations that Solomon committed, and he's the one that I was going to put his name for all eternity on the house.
Right? And remember in 2 Samuel 7, that text has been corrupted, verse 12 in particular. Right? They insert his child, which that's a covenant between God and David. David promises to build God's house, and God promises to establish David's throne forever. A covenant cannot be entered into by a party who's not present. Solomon cannot fulfill that part of the covenant. David had to do it. And notice the contradiction. 2 Samuel 7:13 says Solomon's throne's eternal. 2 Samuel 7:16 says David's throne's eternal. And so you start to begin to understand what Isaiah 52:8 is talking about. So let me go real quick. Isaiah 52:8. says, oh, sorry, not Isaiah 52:8. Isaiah 52:14. And many were astonished at you. His visage was so marred more than any man, and his form more than the sons of men. So think about what they've done with David. They've taken what David is and they've assigned it to Solomon first, then Cyrus the Great Deception second, then JC third. But it's all David. The man who built the first temple will build the second temple.
And just for the record, the second temple has never been built. So where do you got to go to in the books? Zephaniah. What's the two other books in the Tanakh?
Zechariah.
Where they build it.
Zechariah.
Zechariah.
Zechariah chapter 4, right? Zerubbabel. Zerubbabel, remember, just means sown in Babylon. So all of our Israelite brothers and sisters out there who were actually sown in Babylon and who are alive today will be laying the foundation of the second temple. Hallelujah. Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, remember, Zechariah 6:13, 12 and 13. His throne, and shall be a priest upon his throne. Remember, Shiloh, to him to whom it belongs. It is David's throne and David's staff, which is how you will identify him. He will have Aaron's staff and he will use it to do signs and wonders here in Babylon, just like Moses did in Egypt. Hallelujah. Oh, that prophet, Deuteronomy 18:15.
Go back to Shiloh and go to the Strongs and show them what the definition of Shiloh is, basically. And again, there is truth. Strong's is just as twisted as the King James is, but still there's truth there.
Yes, and just to be clear, the Genesis 49:10 should say, "The scepter shall not depart from Joseph."
Mm-hmm.
The reason it doesn't say Ephraim is this is Jacob blessing his children. So this is going to say Joseph. But if you go to Numbers 17:8, when it says the Aaron's rod from the tribe of Ephraim budded. Ephraim is David's lineage. Look at it, tells us God, the Most High leaves the nugget. Who wants to read it? Let's go. 1 Samuel 17:12.
Repeat that. You're breaking up, brother. You're breaking up.
Oh, hold on. Let me make sure I'm on the right internet.
I couldn't hear the scriptures that you were pulling out.
I said 1 Samuel 17:12.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first I said number 17:8. You heard that?
Yeah.
Okay, so number 17:8 should be Ephraim. And look what it says. 1 Samuel 17:12. Now David was the son of that Ephratite.
Mm-hmm.
Now, David's not alone. 1 Samuel 1:1. Okay, let's look at what Samuel's lineage was. There was a certain man of Zophim of Mount Ephraim, and his name was Eliakim, the son of Jeroham, son of Elihu, the son of Tohu, the son of Zoph, an Ephratite.
Yeah, you got to go back to the previous two episodes that we did, and we explain who David is not from the tribe of Judah. He's from the tribe of Ephraim. You got to go that Leviticus, basically the whole chapter, the whole book of Leviticus was added.
Was inserted, he said. Yeah, you broke up there. Let's go to the verse that we found this week. Such a beautiful verse to just confirm the kill shot on Leviticus. Jeremiah 7:22. For I spoke not to your fathers. And remember, Moses is included in the fathers of the children of Israel. So let's hear that again. Verse 22. I spoke not to your fathers, nor commanded them in the day that I brought them out of the land of Egypt concerning burnt offerings or sacrifices. The tribe of Levi is made up, it's inserted. That's why you have a famous brand of jeans called Levi's. They're laughing at us. Okay.
What were the other three scriptures I gave you? I gave you that went along with that. Because you remember those? Because I can't, the search bar, I can't remember what I did on the search bar.
That was for, you're talking about in terms of Levi being, Leviticus being corrupted?
No. No, talking about the sacrifices.
Oh, you were talking about how he abhors them and that
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah. I don't remember the verses though. But again, just to rehash that, guys, if you read um if you read Exodus chapter 40 and jump to Numbers 1, it's a perfect continuous narrative. And both time God commands them to give one from each tribe. No one is sent from Levi, but we have people sent from Ephraim and Manasseh.
Yeah, and that's the last chapter of Exodus and the first chapter of Numbers. If you read that, if you read Exodus, skip the whole book of Leviticus and go right to Numbers, it's just a perfect narrative. It just flows like hot butter.
And again, they're just making the Most High God a pagan god like all these other gods that is satisfied with blood to set up the deception of being covered by the blood of the bastard son of Rome.
What did I do? I called you up yesterday or called you up last night and I asked you the question. What is every foreign god or every other god besides Allah? What do they require?
Blood.
Sacrifices. And so what do you do by making Allah require sacrifices? You throw them in the same pot as all the other gods.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, and remember, the scripture tells us this. In Daniel 7:25, they will change the laws. The laws are the Torah. It's not some new religion comes around and says the Torah is not relevant. It's telling you that they're going to change the laws.
And the big thing is this again, Allah's word cannot contradict itself. It can't. It's impossible. He's perfect in all his ways. So when you find the blaring contradictions, which are all through the book, this is something that you've got to search the matter out. We're not saying we're right. We've been wrong plenty of times. I've been wrong so many times in my life, but still we just keep digging and digging and begging him for the truth. Call unto me, and I will show you great and mighty things that thou knowest not. That's his word. That's his promise. You have to crawl up in your father's lap every single day and ask him, trust in him, live by him. You just like when your kids were 2 years old or they were young. Why is the sky blue? Why? They asked you why all the time. This is how you have to be with your father. This is what he desires. He desires you to crawl up in his lap and you to ask him everything you want to know.
Facts. And then I just want to emphasize too, part of the fear tactics of Christianity, right? If you think about Paul in Galatians, okay, I'm going to read it because there's a lot of truth again in in his words, right? Because we know that if we're not circumcised, we're cut off.
For the Israelites.
For the Israelites, right? Even the strangers, right?
That's
You're not
right.
going to be. You can't come in unless you're circumcised, right?
Wow, but you can't be a stranger unless you're an Israelite because it's all in the same pot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So look at here. This is what Paul says. Stand fast, therefore, in the liberty wherewith JC has made you free, and be not entangled again with the yoke of bondage, referring to the law. Verse 2. Behold, I, Paul, say to you that if you be circumcised, JC shall profit you nothing. Statement of fact. That is a statement of fact that if you be circumcised, JC has no value to you.
Mhm.
Right? Because again, if you're an Israelite, you're circumcised. And if you're circumcised, JC has no value to you. But now notice what it says here. Verse 3, for I testify to every man that is circumcised that he is a debtor to do the whole law. And you see what they're trying to get you to think about right there? They're trying to make you think about all the rules in Leviticus
Mhm.
and how difficult it would be to keep those. For example, how do you know a woman was on her period and sat in that chair?
Well, you got to give them. They don't understand that, or the bride on her wedding night that's got to bring the sheets up to the, you know, to the kings in the door in the gate, sitting at the gate, and they had to put blood on the.
Mhm. And then cooking. If a plate touches something unclean, right? It's unclean. The plate becomes unclean.
Yeah.
Isn't so you start to see all of these, and then think about this: you're commanded to go forth and be bountiful, right, and have children, as many children, right? But then in Leviticus says that when you spill your seed, you become unclean. Isn't that interesting? Direct contradiction, no? And so you start to realize that Leviticus, right? These are the same people you're reading about in the Epstein files. These are the high priests of this world.
That's exactly what Leviticus is. It's just they wrote themselves into the book.
They did. And if you go put Leviticus in Gematria, lo and behold, the first result, Illuminati. What a coincidence. And see, that's the thing, brothers and sisters. We got to understand, I know people get so upset. How can you say these things? How can you attack the word? I'm not attacking the word. I'm
No.
defending the word.
Yeah.
Proverbs 30, verse 5 tells us every word of God is pure. Right? Is that right? Let me pull that up. I think it's Proverbs 30, verse 5. Yes, Proverbs 30, verse 5. Every word of God is pure. Something that's pure cannot have glaring contradictions. It's not possible. Divine truth has to pass our truth.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I know we got super sidetracked, but now let's go back to where we were with Daniel 9:26.
What
So I know
we
you wanted to go first,
yeah,
but
go
I
to
really want to show what Daniel 9:26 should say because again, my PTR guys that I just updated, I really want to show how Genesis 15:13 and uh, Jeremiah 25:12 are going to end simultaneously with the judgment of Babylon and the second Exodus. So you want to go with Daniel 9:26, brother? Your issue about the being cut off and the prince and destroying the sanctuary and all that stuff.
yeah. I'm going to read it in the NET. You want to read it in the King James? Which one do you
Oh
want?
no, go ahead because I'll read the correct translation or what we've come up with based on our
Okay.
understanding right now. But you go ahead and read this.
Daniel 9:26. Now after the 62 weeks, an anointed one will be cut off and have nothing. As for the city and the sanctuary, the people of the coming prince will destroy them, but his end will come speedily like a flood. Until the end of the war that has been decreed there will be destruction. You want to go to 27?
Well, no. So I want to take issue with that because
Yeah.
again, as I said, the biggest problem that we see there is that um, the verse right before Daniel 9:25 told us that the Messiah comes after 69 jubilees. How can the Messiah come after 69 jubilees, but then be cut off prior to that at 62 jubilees, right? Best flag there by the Most High God. What a blessing. Something is wrong here. But I want everyone to notice something that's not a coincidence. that if we take 70 and we minus 62, we get 8. 8 times 50 is 400. 400 years, the promise of Genesis 15:13. So the person being cut off in Daniel 9:26 is not the Messiah who hasn't arrived yet.
They made singular instead of plural. It should
It's
say
the
plural.
children of Israel.
Yeah. And see how simple it is to mislead somebody? Is say the person or the persons, the people. Houston, you got a problem there.
Absolutely. So now notice. So I'm going to read now what we believe is the correct translation or closer translation to the truth for Daniel 9:26. Now after 62 jubilees, Israel will be cut off and have nothing. The people of Edom will destroy them, but his end will come speedily like a flood. Until the end of the war that has been decreed, there will be destruction.
And what's the war decreed on? The Israel.
Gog Magog, right? I think that's the last thing over there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Until the end of the war that has been decreed, there will be destruction. Like, as we know, what's going to come until Gog Magog is going to be judgment right now, right? Fire, fire, more fire. Okay.
Yeah,
Which we can circle back to Joel once we finish Daniel here and read that.
But we do know that did dare declare war on his own people for 400 years, and rightfully so. Judah was more wickedly and was going to pay double for their sins.
Judah and Ephraim, right? It seems.
Yeah.
The Daniel 9:17, right? The fourth beast, the one that stamps out the residue,
Mm-hmm.
which is here in America.
Mm-hmm.
And again, if you look, 1619 plus 400 is 2019. Obviously, that's not correct. And the reason I got to fall of 2024 is what I did was, Pharaoh's calendar is 365.25. If you times that by 400 and divide that then by 360, you actually get 405.55 years. So from 1619 would bring you to the fall of 2024. Obviously, that's not correct either, right? God left that date 1619 not to show you the end of it, but to give you the marker of Deuteronomy 33:26 when you should be expecting the light to appear. And that's why our attention was to the sky in the fall of 2024 on the Feast of Trumpets.
Is that why street lights are green to go and red to stop?
Yeah, well, that's a good point. And as I showed you, that right before that happened, Supreme released their green box logo shirt, where it's normally red.
Yeah.
And
I never knew about Supreme until, brother, you explained it to me, but it makes perfect sense after now I understand it.
yeah, and again, like today, they launched their new season today, right? You're commanded not to buy or sell on the Sabbath day. How many Israelites are out there today buying Supreme?
Mm-hmm.
And then notice their free gift for this season is a crown. You know what? I'm gonna put that I'm gonna add that right now to my I'm gonna add that right now to my PTR. That's gonna be my new PTR. Getting ready for the crowning of the true Messiah, of the
Shalom,
supreme
brothers.
most high God. Hey, shalom, Julian. How you doing, brother?
I'm good. How are you?
Can't
Just have
complain.
a few questions. When do you two think the last time that the righteous were in authority is? Seeing the wicked bear rule. When do you guys think that was?
Well, so for sure we can say that when David first reigned, right? Um, that's when I think that to me is what the occult referred to as the lost city of Atlantis, the greatest nation that the world has ever seen. When Tao united the houses of Israel and ruled over them the first time, I believe the fulfillment of Genesis 37:7. Stephanie, I really, by the way, I love that verse you found, Genesis 50:18, where they do fall down before him. I think the only thing I would say is I don't feel they're bowing to his authority. They're afraid of him, and
Hey,
afraid of his retribution as opposed to bowing to his authority. Like, this is the rightful leader of the nation of Israel. Numbers 8:17, right? That's what the almond branch represents. This is the man that God declared will reign as king of Israel forever.
is Julian? Is there a scripture that goes with that question or something? I'm just because I'm not totally understanding your question.
He's just saying, like, when was the last time, like, but I think, Josiah was a righteous king, right? Um, So even after David, it seems like you still had some righteousness here and there. Um, but I feel obviously once the children of Israel were cut off, I think it's safe to say righteousness has been removed from earth.
You said Josiah, right? Is that what you said, brother? Did you just say the King Josiah?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's questions. The kings are questionable that there's this many kings after Dao, but
Saul had to
but I
live to 120.
yeah he couldn't have lived just to 80 because there's 42 kings that lived in the span of 433 years, I think it is, and it averages out like 13 years per king, and it doesn't it doesn't make sense. But anyway, the righteousness, Josiah was definitely, I don't know of any king that cleaned everything up, but like Josiah did, and that's one of my favorite. That's my favorite king, besides Dao. That I mean, this guy. I just love when he dug the bones up and beat them into powder. He just couldn't stand that they were even that. So think of the zeal that he had, but then and again, think of the foolishness why he fell. Because he just didn't believe that a heathen could speak to him, and it's Ao speaking through him. When Pharaoh Necho says, "Hey, I'm going down to the Euphrates because Aho's got me going down there. Go home to your family." And he thought he was going to disguise himself. Anyway,
I think how many Israelites today reject my words because I'm pale face.
well, it's
Like, they didn't get the lesson that a donkey can be used to wake you up.
yeah, it's an ingrainment, but still, it's what we should be doing instead of believe me, we're not right about everything, and it's not that we have the answers and all that. Um, but we gotta stick to the scriptures. We gotta prove our point by the scriptures, and people gotta disprove us by the scriptures. And we've argued till we're blue over Cyrus, and all this foolishness with this people. But it is what it is. But I wanted to make sure, Julian, that we answer if that's an acceptable. When did righteousness end?
Yeah, I was just curious if you guys think it ended like more recent than the Davidic kingdom, but it sounds like it ended thousands of years ago,
Well,
maybe
I
hundreds.
yeah, I'm going to look at it this way. I'm going to go to the scripture because one thing that we believe is that there's 7,000 years of the timeline until the end. But it's when Yahshua, when the Israelites were cut off in the middle, which is 3,500 years. So we've had 3,500 years of basically righteousness to a certain point. And then after that, the Israelites are going to be cut off for 3,500 years until the Messiah comes back. So there can't be any righteousness in the dark period.
Well, we also know from Isaiah, right? Isaiah chapter 3, they have no leaders. And so if there's no leaders, right, that follow the ways of the Most High, how could we expect to see righteousness?
And there's no temple, there's no Jerusalem, there's no nothing.
Which should tell you something about
I
all
guess
these
that's what
captains of these Hebrew
Whoa.
Israelite camps.
He was trying to
But
speak,
go
brother.
ahead.
excuse me, sorry about that.
No,
But I was just saying, like, I guess what I was asking was if there was like, if it's been 3,500 years of just like heathen foolishness, or like there's been, I guess, some type of like execution of true judgment in rulership outside of this American economy or outside of this worldly rule. I don't know. It's kind of hard to like grasp 3,500 years of just people being apes in cages and like just acting like it's a zoo. It's kind of crazy to me.
Well,
Well,
I would say that I would assume that there's always been a righteous remnant that's had the protection that he promises by keeping his ways, right? Um, but then if you look too at the same time, like that's been lost. Like what we have today is corrupted text. Um, if you look at Isaiah 29:11, where it says, you're going to give it to someone, and he's going to say, I can't read it; it's sealed. So I don't know. It's an interesting question.
it's a very interesting question that that you bring up, and in saying it like that about the apes and the cages and all that. Let's just say this is you'll never sequester the light, and this is where I don't, brother, you know the scripture where they said to Dao, hey, don't you come out to battle with us because we don't want the light of Israel going out.
Yeah, and I think it's a beautiful because it really relates back to day 4 too. Um, because if you look, something that we've been pondering and discussing is that creation week every day represents 1,000 years of Earth's history. So on day 1, you have them separating light from darkness. My theory is that's Enoch. It's a reference to Enoch when he teaches the children of men the ways of life. Those that follow, that's light. Those that reject, that's dark, right? Then also, obviously, being, day and night, you also have this morning and evening vision built into the first day, right? Because you don't have any lights in the sky yet, but you still have light and darkness half half. Um, Day 2, he never says it's good. It's the only day he doesn't say it's good. And obviously that corresponds with the flood where everything was destroyed. So it kind of makes sense that he wouldn't say that, right? Day 3, he says it twice. I believe that that's a reference to Abraham 1, Moses 2. And then looking on day 4, right? On day 4, he creates the sun. And day 4, when he says it's good, that's a reference to David's kingdom. Genesis 37:7, right? And then the clear language about the sun, right? And so let's look here. So let's go. First, let's talk about how he's the light. And so let's start in 2 Samuel. 2 Samuel looks like 21:17, brother. Let me pull that up. 2 Samuel 21:17. It says, but Abishai, the son of Zeruiah, succored him and smote the Philistine and killed him. Then the men of David swore to him, saying, you shall no more go out with us to battle, that you quench not the light of Israel. So look at, they're saying to David, you can't come out to fight with us anymore. Why? So that the light of Israel isn't extinguished. Right? And then let's combine that with Isaiah 10:17. And the light of Israel shall be for a fire, and his Holy One for a flame. And it shall burn and devour his thorns and his briars in one day. And notice again the symbolism with the sun and the heat of the sun, right? The flame burning, right? And then I also have here Isaiah 42:6. All right. I, have called you in righteousness and will hold your hand and will keep you and give you for a covenant of the people, for a light of the Gentiles.
So,
I think that should be nations. I think Gentiles is more trying to make you think JC,
yeah.
right? Um,
So I would say Julian, that the 3,500 years is just the dark area of the Israelites, because it's all about the Israelites. It's not about anything else but the Israelites. But they're going through a time because of their rejection to the truth. And in saying that, if we go to Amos chapter 5, which we were reading today, brother, and in Amos chapter 5 and verse 5-4, it says, and Ao says this to the family of Ao Sharal, seek me so you can live. And then he says right here, look at this, verse 5, do not seek Bethel, do not visit Gilgal, do not journey down to Beersheba, for the people of Gilgal will certainly be carried into exile, and Bethel will become a place where disaster abounds. What he's saying is, this was the smart people. This was the high priest. This was the people that so-called knew him. He says, don't go to these people. Come sit on my lap. Verse 6, seek Ao so you can live. Otherwise, he will break out like fire against Joseph's family, talking about the Ephraimites, talking about the priest. So it says, seek me so you can live. This is go sitting in your daddy's lap. The fire will consume and no one will be able to quench it and save Bethel. No one's going to save the church. No one's going to save the temple. And then verse 7, the Israelites turn justice into bitterness. They throw what is fair and right to the ground. So they reject the truth and they don't protect it. So the 3,500 years is that light is never going to be quenched, because Dao, the Messiah, is the light who's going to come back. But there were righteous Israelites. There had to be. Somewhere in that 3,500 years, they've been carrying this on and moving this. Now, we're definitely of the opinion of the righteous stranger is grafted in to Ao Sharal. And he says, what is that? Isaiah 9:14. I think it. I can't remember where that's at right now. No, that's in Deuteronomy. But anyway, that's a great question that you asked, Julian, and it's really it's, even though it's a dark age, there's a light that's never going to go out, and the Israelites are carrying that light because they're the only ones that can carry it. There's no other salvation outside of Yasharal. None.
and just that last verse, just to emphasize this light symbolism, and again the spring equinox, sunrise. You look at Isaiah 58:8, where it says, "Then shall your light break forth as the morning, and your health shall spring forth speedily, and your righteousness shall go before you. The glory of Ao shall be your reward." And so, um, I think, it's a beautiful thing that we're about to witness. Um, and I think what I would love to do, brother, I think is a great time to let's go to Joel, because Julian is the one who commented about the horses in Zechariah. And so
No,
let's go take a
that's
look
Julian.
let's go take a look at this beautiful
Well, then
prophecy of
let me
Joel.
let me say this now before we get Julian. I've been thinking about that. I read that. I read your email or your response a couple times. And last night I was laying in bed and I said, Father, you know, we got to figure out this horse business. You know what the brother's asking out there. And then this is right where Brother Mayron, you're going. What we found in I think you're going to get an answer right now, and the answer's in Joel. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah. And so I'm going to stay in the King James, although I will have NET at standby because, it's just always nice to have a second opinion, particularly when you can tell something's off with the verse. All right, so let's go to Joel chapter 1. And again, so just what brought us here this morning. And again, I just want to emphasize, guys, it's not a coincidence that Brother James and I have these revelations on the Sabbath. We're pondering these things and we wake up with these revelations on the Sabbath. All of our revelations have come on true feast days, right? You got to imagine all of creation is worshiping the Most High God. Those in heaven who were not cut off, right? Oh, actually, before we go there, let's finish Daniel real quick. My apologies. Let's just do the last verse there, Daniel 9:27. Just to emphasize all of this symbolism of a day in 1,000 years, 3,500 years being the cutoff time. Daniel 9:27. And he, God, shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. So just to emphasize, he, God, shall confirm the covenant with many people for 7,000 years. And in the middle of that 7,000 years, he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. So notice, at halftime, directly smack in the middle, the children of Israel are cut off, and they stay like that for 3,500 years to the end. And why? Because of the overspreading of abominations, he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. And that is the true prophecy of Daniel 9:24, 9:27. All glory to the Most High for unsealing that vision right before we see the end of the story.
And what did he say about the covenant? What did he mention about the covenant and what you just read?
He shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. For 7,000 years, he's been confirming his words with us, right?
There, Julian, I think that's part of the answer right there. What's happening in the dark times, he's confirmed his covenant with many. There's many people out there that still understood, and they're carrying the light of Osharal.
Hallelujah. And he confirmed the covenant when he brought that evil upon our forefathers who rejected them. It was well deserved. All the things he does is righteous. And when he says something, his word is the truth. That's why the ravenous bird is the word of the Most High God. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Let's go to Joel.
All right, so let's go to Joel.
This is interesting, Julian.
So, Joel chapter 1. The word of Ao that came to Joel, the son of Pethuel. Verse 2. Hear this, you old men, and give ear, all you inhabitants of the land. Has this been in your days, or even in the days of your fathers? So let's go to the NET there, because it's just so much easier to understand what it's saying. Has anything like this ever happened in your whole life or in the lifetime of your ancestors? And so notice, we know about the amazing story that Moses bore witness to in the Torah. But Jeremiah 16:15 tells us that what is coming is going to make us forget about that. So nothing like this has ever happened, either in our time or in the lifetime of our ancestors. What a time to be alive, right? As the saying goes, may you live in interesting times.
Yeah, and so because you're going to see the narrative change here. Joel 1, 2, and 3 is about Dao, the second Exodus, and all this, and then it's changed to all their foolishness. Go ahead.
All right. Verse 3. Tell you your children of it, and let your children tell their children, and their children another generation. Verse 4. That which the polar worm has left, the locust has the locust eaten. That which the locust has left, has the cankerworm eaten. That which the cankerworm has left, has the caterpillar eaten? I want to point out there, you have 4 beasts. You have a palmer worm, locust, cankerworm, caterpillar. Or is that a reference to the 4 beasts of Babylon that destroyed his people? 5. Awake, you drunkards, and weep and howl, all you drinkers of wine, because of the new wine, for it is cut off from your mouth. Verse 6.
Hold on,
Oh, go
brother.
ahead.
If you think about there, the drinkers of wine, and he talks about in Revelations where you're going to be corrupted by the wine, which is the word. It just made me think, because of the sweet wine has been taken away from you. The truth of the true Torah has been taken away from you. Go ahead.
Actually, it's really interesting there because, one of our theories recently has been that the dreams that Joseph interprets in prison are the 2 priesthoods, Ephraim and Manasseh. Ephraim representing the baker and the leaven that's cut off, and then the butler being the wine bearer, right? Being the cupbearer of the wine, right? So is this a reference because the new wine, for it is cut off from your mouth, right? Is that a reference to, like, you're not going to see that new priesthood, Manasseh?
Could be.
Yeah, I don't know. All right, verse 6. For a nation is come up upon my land, strong and without number, whose teeth are the teeth of a lion, and he has the cheek teeth of a great lion. And so again, this to me is a reference to Babylon coming upon his people, right? And obviously the end of that being the 4th beast, Daniel 7:19, that stamps out the residue. Verse 7. He has laid my vine waste and barked my fig tree. He has made it clean bare and cast it away. The branches thereof are made white. Other translations say that this bark is completely stripped away, right? No protection. Is that the same thing that we just discussed in Daniel 9:26 about after 62 weeks, they're cut off and have nothing? They have no protection.
That's where I always says, it says in, also, I think it's in Joel, in the end, my word will be precious. It means rare.
Yeah, the same thing, Isaiah 29:11, right? Coming off of 29:10, which says, I'm going to pour upon you a spirit of deep slumber.
Yeah, that's scary.
Yeah.
Isaiah 66:4. I'm going to send you a delusion.
Mhm.
2 Thessalonians 2:11. I'm going to send you a strong delusion so you believe the lie.
Mhm. And that's what he does. If he brings you the truth and you reject it for man's nonsense, he's going to put your mind into a prison. You can actually see it in the story of Zedekiah, when Jeremiah comes to him and tells him, I beseech you, obey the word of your God. And he thinks he's going to die. And Jeremiah says, I promise you that if you believe the word of God, you will not die. But he didn't believe. And what happens to him? His children become a prey. His children are killed before his eyes. He's blinded. His eyes are taken out. So think about that spirit of deep slumber. He can't see anymore. All of his discernment is gone. And then he's chained and carried off into Babylon, into confusion, right? That's a promise to God to you if you want to be like that, right? All right, verse 8. Lament like a virgin girded with sackcloth for her husband of her youth. Verse 9. The meat offering and the drink offering is cut off from the house of Ao. The priests, Ao's ministers mourn. Verse 10. The field is wasted, the land mourns, for the corn is wasted. The new wine is dried up, the oil languishes. Verse 11. Be ye ashamed, O ye husbandmen. Howl, O you vine dressers, for the wheat and for the barley, because the harvest of the field is perished. Verse 12. The vine is dried up, and the fig tree languishes, the pomegranate tree, the palm tree also, and the apple tree, even all the trees of the field are withered, because joy is withered away from the sons of men. Verse 13. Gird yourselves and lament, you priests. Howl, you ministers of the altar. Come lie all night in sackcloth, ye ministers of my God. For the meat offering and the drink offering is withholden from the house of your God. Verse 14, and this is the first call to a fast. And I've been talking to Brother James. My plan is, I don't think we're supposed to fast on the Sabbath. So I'm probably going to go Friday, Saturday, Sunday, leading up to the 3.5 day fast leading up to the resurrection on Monday the 9th. Because again, here's one reference to a fast, and we're going to see it again. Verse 14, sanctify you a fast, call a solemn assembly, gather the elders and all the inhabitants of the land into the house of Ao your God, and cry to Ao. Verse 15, alas, for the day of Ao is at hand, and as a destruction from the Almighty shall it come. Hallelujah. Verse 16, is not the meat cut off before our eyes? Yea, joy and gladness from the house of our God. Verse 17, the seed is rotten under their clods. The garners are laid desolate. The barns are broken down, for the corn is withered. Verse 18, how do the beasts groan? The herds of cattle are perplexed because they have no pasture. Yea, the flocks of sheep are made desolate. And as brother pointed out, the sheep go lower to the ground. So that's just telling you that there's literally nothing there, right? Verse 19, to you will I cry, for the fire has devoured the pastures of the wilderness, and the flame has burned all the trees of the field. Verse 20, the beasts of the field cry also to you, for the rivers of water are dried up, and the fire has devoured the pastures of the wilderness.
Verse chapter 2.
All
Hold on,
right.
I just have a quick
All right, great, because
little
I'm going to
like
grab a water. Go ahead.
I just have a new thought. So like how you described the four beasts, the palmer worm, locust, cankerworm, caterpillar. What if that is like Babylon? But after when he says, for the wine is cut off from your mouth, for a nation has come upon the land, strong, without number, whose teeth as the cheek of a lion. What if it's Shiloh? Because in Genesis 49, Judah is as a lion's whelp. Like he's who shall rouse up Judah.
Okay, so bring my question with that, Julian, is how does Shiloh come into that? I mean, how are you using Shiloh?
Because it says, for a nation strong is come upon my land. Like it's a nation never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
So like maybe this is Shiloh's come,
Okay, Shiloh, because the conception of Shiloh is the Messiah. Now,
to he whom it belongs.
yes, to he whom belongs, and that's exactly right. Is who I think he's distinguishing. So now I see your point.
So he's laid everything waste, like what we thought was like what it is now. He's like to hell with that, like throw it away. He's telling everyone, like, what if he's like bringing like Aho's true judgment, like.
Oh, I think. Well, no. I mean, I think that's a great. Uh, understanding, or as we'd like to call it, a theory. What
Yeah.
we're always trying to do is just like this. I mean, just what you just did. Brother Mayron and I do all the time. I mean, we probably talk 10 times a day, and it's always, I got something for you, brother. Okay, what is it? And I call up, I said, what about this? What about that?
Yeah.
But what you're saying is this is how, and then what we do is we start searching the scriptures. No, that's a great understanding.
Yeah.
That's
The the only thing I would say though is the language here about like the trees, right? Um, and it seems like I just feel chapter one is talking about what he did to Jerusalem. I feel chapter one is the desolations of Jerusalem. Because I agree with you in terms of the Messiah is going to come and be a fire, right? But I don't think you're going to see that until we keep reading here in chapter two.
But think about how like all of us, we were in like the Exodus. We had good eats in Egypt, and then we had to leave, and we were all like dirt, dust, and ashes again. So it was like a second birth. So like for it is cut off from your mouth, like who's in charge? That's whose new wine it is. And in Judges, I think 13 maybe. I don't know. There's somewhere where it talks about like the trees going to the trees to find a king.
that
I
makes
think it's Judges 8.
Judges 8.
Oh no,
Read,
wait.
read that. We'll go ahead and find it. We'll
Yeah.
read.
The trees went forth on a time to anoint king over them. So like these trees is Israel saying like to after Gideon's death, like, okay, well you be ours, and then they go to the thorn bush to make him king over them. But he ends up just bringing destruction. So like the trees themselves aren't very wise, but they're beautiful because they all have their own characteristics, like the fig tree, the sweetness, the olive tree, the fatness. They're the honor of God, the vine, the wine, who gives God cheer.
Yeah, it's really interesting. When I read the tree stuff there, I connected it to the spies and the grapes that they bring back, right? Just the abundance of the promised land. But yeah, I think obviously we know that Babylon is going to be left completely desolate, right? So obviously, I think it applies from that side too. Yeah, really interesting.
Well, we're going to see here in just a minute how Assyria has destroyed the East Coast.
Yeah, yeah. So here we go. Joel chapter 2. Now it gets exciting because this is the day of the Lord, right? The day of oh, here we go. Blow you the trumpet in Zion and sound an alarm in my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of comes, for it is near at hand. Verse 2. A day of darkness and of gloominess, a day of clouds and of thick darkness. As the morning spreads upon the mountain, a great people and strong. There has not been ever the like, neither shall there be any more after it, even to the years of many generations. Okay, let's pause there
Yeah.
because I want to point out that it seems like the KJV is trying to make it seem like a group of people, right? But it seems like this is probably a reference to two people that the world has never seen the like thereof.
And
And that
neither,
would be David and Elijah. And if you think about it, one of them returned from heaven and the other was resurrected from the grave.
well, it needs a period in there, like we were talking. Because
Yeah, yeah. So let me read it the way I think it should be. So I think there's two separate sentences, right? A day of darkness and of gloominess, a day of clouds and of thick darkness. In my opinion, that should be period there. Because think about if a day represents 1,000 years, the final day when God rests is a day of darkness. And think about the horror that Abraham sees. And lo, and horror of great darkness, Genesis 15:12. And it's right after that that he sees Genesis 15:13. And then you think about Daniel 8:26. and the vision of the morning and the evening which was told is true. And the evening, right, is darkest right before the dawn, right before the day breaks. Genesis 36:26. And God said to Jacob, let me go, for the day breaks. Notice he tempts his servant in the middle of Jacob's trouble, saying, give up, let go of me, because the day breaks, right? So darkness, that cloud is separate, period. And now notice, as the morning spread upon the mountains. So now we have the new day breaking, the light of Israel returning.
I want to kick something off here too, that you're talking about when Jacob's wrestling with in the middle of Jacob's trouble. That what's happening here on Monday and this coming up now is the kickoff of Jacob's trouble.
We're going to see the same exact language, absolutely.
Verse 3.
Verse 3. A fire devours before them, and behind them a flame burns. The land is as the Garden of Eden before them, and behind them a desolate wilderness. Yea, and nothing shall escape them.
Who is the them?
David and Elijah.
Hallelujah.
There has never been a people as great as David and Elijah. Neither shall there be any more after it.
Now here's Julian's verse right here.
Okay, now we're going to also tie this into Jacob's trouble. Verse 4. The appearance of them is as the appearance of horses, and as horsemen, so shall they run. Verse 5. Like the noise of chariots on the top of mountains shall they leap, like the noise of a flame of fire that devours the stubble, as a strong people set in battle array. Verse 6, before their face the people shall be much pained. All faces shall turn pale. So let's pause right there. Let's go to this narrative of Jacob's trouble in the book of Jasher. So I'm going to Jasher here, Jasher 32. Give me 1 second. And we're going to see how this is the same kind of language that we see during Jacob's trouble. Okay, so. And Jacob tarried there that night, and during the whole night he gave his servants instruction concerning the forces and his children. Okay, verse 27. This is Jasher 32:27. And heard the prayer of Jacob on that day, and then delivered Jacob from the hand of his brother Esau. Verse 28. And sent 3 angels of the angels of heaven, and they went before Esau and came to him. Verse 29. And these angels appeared to Esau and his people as 2,000 men riding upon horses, furnished with all sorts of war instruments. And they appeared in the sight of Esau and all his men to be divided into 4 camps, with 4 chiefs to them.
So, question.
Let me just leave you with this. I just want to jump over here to tie it into these people's faces turning pale. Verse 35. And when they had let it go on, behold, the third camp came toward him, and they were all terrified. And Esau fell off the horse, and the whole camp cried out and said, surely we are the servants of Jacob, who is the servant of God, and who can stand against us?
No one.
No one.
My question was this, and you just answered it, but I just wanted you to expound on the narrative. What is the most fearful sight of anybody back in that time? What's the most fearful sight that could come upon them?
Fire.
Pardon?
I would say fire, like how God spoke out of the mountain as
Oh
fire.
yeah, well yeah, fire coming down from heaven and consuming and that yeah. But what I was thinking is men is the cavalry, the army, 10,000 horses running at you with the swords and the spears. And they were obviously afraid of the horsemen. So thinking of you, Julian, go back. Where's the scripture that you and I were talking about, brother?
Zechariah 6:2, maybe.
Yeah, it was about when he was telling them uh, how they were going to kill the Assyrians, that they're going to hear the the sound of cavalry coming in the myrtle trees. And it would just made me think of that right there. But go to Zechariah, expound on what you're saying in Zechariah.
I don't know, what I had to expound on was the fact that, like, they didn't send the red horses.
Yeah.
And a black and red. And the red ones didn't get sent. So when he says, like, where is it? The noise of the chariots on the tops of mountains shall they leap. When Elijah's on the mountain, if I be a man of God, let fire come down from heaven and devour you. Like the noise of a flame that devoureth the stubble is a strong people set in battle array, and all their faces shall gather blackness.
That's a terrible translation, brother. It should be their fear basically makes them pale. We were looking at that. King James hides what they're talking about there.
The NET says that they would go pale. But what we were taught when we read this earlier today, Joy, and both of us paused when we got right here, and I said, "Hey, that's that brother that wrote the email and did this." We were talking about this and all this business of Revelation with the horses, Zechariah with the horses, has something taken from right here, and they're expounding on it over there. But it seems like Dao and Elijah are like the horsemen of the battle of the horsemen, because we know Dao is a man of war. Psalms 149. Dao teaches my hands to war and my fingers to fight. So he's a man of war. Go ahead, bro.
Yeah. All right. So let's continue. Um,
I think you were down at verse.
verse 8, right? Okay. Neither shall one thrust another. They shall walk every one in his path, and when they shall fall upon the sword, they shall not be wounded. I'm going to read that in the NET. They do not jostle one another. Each of them marches straight ahead. They burst through the city defenses and do not break their ranks. Verse 9. They shall run to and fro in the city. They shall run upon the wall. They shall climb up upon the houses. They shall enter in at the windows like a thief. Verse 10. The earth shall quake before them. The heavens shall tremble. The sun and the moon shall be dark, and the stars shall withdraw their shining. I wonder if that's a reference to Amos and the darkness. I will turn their feast days into darkness.
In chapter 5.
Well, the same idea of, the ninth plague was darkness, right? Are we going to see that again before the second Exodus? Verse 11, and shall utter his voice before his army, for his camp is very great, for he is strong that executes his word. For the day of Ao is great and very terrible, and who can abide it? Verse 12, Therefore also now said Ao, turn you even to me with all your heart. And notice again another reference here, and with fasting and with weeping and with mourning. And I just want to point out that right now, as we head towards the fulfillment of Joel 2:31 and the resurrection of David the Messiah on March 9th, 2026, how many people are fasting for false gods?
A bunch.
You have Lent and Ramadan happening simultaneously right now.
That's half the
And
world.
all of these billions of people, half the world, right? Fasting for false gods when the word of the Most High is going to be fulfilled before our eyes. And what do we know about the Most High God, brother?
Oh, he's perfect. He's
And he's a jealous God.
God. Oh, he's jealous for his children.
All right. So let's continue now. Verse 13. And rend your heart and not your garments, and turn to Ao your God, for he is gracious and merciful, slow to anger, and of great kindness, and repenteth him of the evil. Verse 14. Who knows if he will return and repent and leave a blessing behind him, even a meat offering and a drink offering to Ao your God? Verse
I love that
15.
part. It reminds me of Joseph with his brothers, except it's uncertainty. Who knows if he's going to be, because he is God, and Joseph says, am I God to say whether or not you guys can be forgiven in my eyes? But with God, he's like, who knows? Like, who really does know? But if he will have mercy this time.
Yeah. Okay, where was that?
15.
Hold on, sorry, my headphone died. 1 second.
You're supposed to plug that in.
All right, I'm back. Verse 15, notice another reference to fasting. Blow the trumpet in Zion, sanctify a fast, call a solemn assembly. Verse 16, gather the people, sanctify the congregation, assemble the elders, gather the children, and those that suck the breasts. Let the bridegroom go forth of his chamber, and the bride out of her closet. It's
Dao.
Dao, right? If you think about the language in a Song of Solomon, chapter 2, verse 14, about coming down out of the chamber, right? Verse 17. Let the priests, the ministers of Ao, weep between the porch and the altar. Let them say, spare your people, O Ao. Give not your heritage to reproach, that the heathen should rule over them. Wherefore should they say among the people, where is our God? Verse 18. Then will Ao be jealous for his land and pity his people. Think about the first Exodus, right? When Moses and Aaron show up, it gets worse.
Yeah, your idol. Take
You're
away
idle,
straw.
same amount of bricks, no straw. And they cry out, and then God hears their cries and reaches out his hand, right?
Mm.
Verse 19. Yea, Ao will answer and say to his people, behold, I will send you corn and wine and oil, and you shall be satisfied therewith, and I will no more make you a reproach among the heathen. Verse 20. But I will remove far off from you the northern army, and will drive him into a desolate, barren, into a land barren and desolate, with his face toward the east sea, and his hinder part toward the utmost sea, and his stink shall come up, and his ill savior shall come up, because he has done great things.
Pause. Expound on the seas.
Yeah, so it seems like this person, this northern army, which I feel is the Babylonian army, because that's where think about Jeremiah, what seest thou? The second time I see a seething pot that faces to the north, right? So I believe that it's talking about the fourth beast of Babylon's army, right? But notice where it's heading, facing toward the East Sea. So they're running towards the Atlantic, right? With their back toward the Great Sea, which is the Pacific Ocean.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, Dao and Elijah are going to be heading from the Utah area east towards the capital, right? And that's why we believe that the first, so again, as we talked about, they're not going to hold a press conference and tell us David has been resurrected. So the things we would be paying attention for are Yellowstone, quote unquote, erupting, right? Because is that going to be Edom bombing David and Elijah? If you look up Yellowstone supervolcano in gematria, there's a strange Latin phrase that shows up that says, I think we have stopped that which had to be opened or something. Or I think we might have delayed that which must be opened. Um, and so, is it possible that we're going to see a Yellowstone quote unquote eruption followed by fire raining down from heaven and wiping Denver off of the face of the earth? Because Denver is Damascus and the prophecy of Isaiah 17:1. If you know people who live in Denver, you might want to suggest that they take a vacation in the month of March. Okay. I would not play around. I'm being honest. I have friends that are in that area, and I have already told them my feelings that they should get as far away from that place as possible.
I wanted to touch on verse 15, blow the trumpet. And again, I think I said it in the beginning, the YouTube videos that you see that people are hearing the trumpet sounds all around the world. There's quite a few videos. So again, this is something that we believe that they're putting this out there that people get used to it. So when the trumpet blows, when Dao wakes up, the trumpet will be sounded, that they'll say, oh, I saw that on YouTube. Everyone will get used to it, just like the blood moons over the last 100 years. We haven't seen them before that, but only in the last 100 years or so, at such and such a time when they have the technology. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, and again, I just want to emphasize some advice from somebody who missed the last time that something like this was going to happen. You want to be up super early in the morning on March 3rd and super early in the morning on March 9th. Okay, trust me.
No, don't trust you. Trust Ao.
Trust Ao. Yes, true, very true. Thank you. But I'm just saying from the perspective of somebody who missed Elijah, man. But what beautiful videos we have of it, right?
Well, that's the first thing you screamed at me. We missed it. We missed it.
I can't, but I was so, to have the word of God be fulfilled on the day that you're waiting for, it was the first time my wife looked at me and said, this guy might not be completely crazy. All right. So where was I? Verse 21. Fear not, O land. Be glad and rejoice, for Ao will do great things. Verse 22, be not afraid, you beasts of the field, for the pastures of the wilderness do spring, for the tree bears her fruit, the fig tree and the vine do yield their strength. Verse 23, be glad then, you children of Zion, rejoice in Ao your God, for he has given you the former rain moderately, and he will cause to come down for you the former rain and the latter rain in which month? In the first month.
First month.
Which is March 10th. If March 9th is the spring equinox.
Yeah, and then you can expound on that. But former rain, latter rain. 3,500 years.
Well, yeah, I also think it's a reference to David twice, right? David's two kingdoms.
Mm.
David being the former reign, David being the latter reign.
Mm-hmm.
But here, I'm going to put the calendar into the chat here, just in case anybody wants to see where we're getting this stuff from. All right, verse 24. The floor shall be full of wheat, and the vats shall overflow with wine and oil. Verse 25. I will restore to you the years that the locust has eaten, the cankerworm, and the caterpillar, and the palmer worm, my great army which I sent among you.
That's Pharaoh robbing the Israelites.
And notice he calls it his army that he sent to them. And
That's
again,
right.
notice 4 beasts again. You see it again. Okay. We're going to talk about Revelations 2 beasts before we leave. We have to. But let's just finish this. 26. And you shall eat in plenty and be satisfied and praise the name of Allah, your God, that has dealt wondrously with you. And my people shall never be ashamed. Verse 27. And you shall know that I am in the midst of Israel, and that I am Allah, your God, and none else. And my people shall never be ashamed. Hallelujah. Verse 28. And it shall come to pass afterward that I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, your old men shall dream dreams, your young men shall see visions. And also upon the servants and upon the handmaids in those days will I pour out my spirit. Verse 30. And I will show wonders in the heavens and in the earth, blood and fire and pillars of smoke.
Mm-hmm.
Notice blood comes first.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why I'm saying I believe 31 has been tampered with. I believe 31 should just say, the moon shall be churned into dark. I'm sorry. The moon shall be churned into blood before the great and terrible day of Allah comes. And again, that's coming this Tuesday morning to a town near you.
So would it be blood,
Blood, Damascus, and then more judgment, right?
that's what I was going to say. Blood, Damascus, and Yellowstone, and more. And
Well, all the fire that we read about in Amos. I'm not. We're not going to go there, but Amos is all fire, 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 fire coming, right?
yeah, and he's Amos is all about the three and the what is it? The 3 and the 1 is 4. I mean, he says that 10 times.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the other thing about why, again, just understanding, it's been 2 years basically, right, since there's been 7 years left. Okay. And think about when David's brothers come to him, it had been 2 years of famine and 5 were remaining.
Oh, yeah.
And so we think that, this March, because we believe the end of this story is March 2030. And so this March is 5 years away from that. Right. Another
Prior,
reason we really think that, and again, going back to the sun symbolism, remember that NASA, which is complete nonsense, tells us the sun is 93 billion miles away.
no, million.
Is it million? Okay, million.
Yeah,
93 million miles away. But notice that's March 9th, 3-9 reverse. Coincidence? We're going to find out. All right, verse 31. The sun shall be churned into darkness, and the moon. Oh, sorry. So the moon shall be churned into blood before the great and terrible day of Allah comes. Verse 32. And it shall come to pass. I want everyone to pay very close attention to this verse. And it shall come to pass that whosoever shall call on the name of Allah shall be delivered. Who's the name we're calling on?
Oh.
Allah. Do not call on the name of false gods during the time of Jacob's trouble.
Why is it all? Why is it all?
Why is the name A'o? Well, why do we think that?
The breath, yeah.
Oh, yeah. The best example is the breath. Just sit there in quiet, peace and quiet, and breathe in and out through your mouth and listen to the sound you make. Obviously, some other things too to notice. Pharaoh has the AO in it. Who's that other king from Genesis that also has AO in it? And then obviously Dao, right?
And then
And then you think about things like Alpha and Omega and the toilet, right? That's JC telling you he's God, right? You have the Amazon logo where the A is clear. The A is pointing at the O, not the Z. It's not A to Z. It's A to O. But yeah, I think the breath is the best. I think supporting evidence of the name. But let's finish this because I really want to get to Revelation. Verse 32. So we did that. Yeah. Whoever shall call on the name of Allah shall be delivered, for in Mount Zion in Jerusalem shall be deliverance, as Allah has said, and in the remnant whom Allah shall call. Hallelujah.
Mm-hmm. Are we doing chapter 3?
I'm not going to do chapter 3 because chapter 3 is going to be Gog Magog, right?
Okay.
Which I think is a different discussion.
Where are we going? Revelation.
I want to go to Revelation.
Revelation what?
Let's go to Revelation 13. Okay, so this is the point, everyone. The authors of the new toilet want you to believe their prophecies of Revelation. And so we're going to show you here how much truth there is in the book of Revelation. Because you have to remember, if it's Edom's book, then the enemy is the children of Israel, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's go to Revelation 13. Verse 1. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. Now, I believe that this first beast here is the first nation of Israel. But let's continue. Verse 2. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. So who are they referring to as the dragon here?
Do.
God. Yes, the Most High God. Let's continue. Verse 3. And I saw one of his heads as it was wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wandered after the beast. So I want to notice a couple things here. Notice we have 7 heads, 7 days of creation, 7,000 years. And one of the heads, could this be the last head, the 7,000th year period, right? The day of rest for the Most High God, the day of darkness, where Israel is wounded to death, right? But notice it tells us that his deadly wound was healed. Verse 4. And they worshiped the dragon that gave power to the beast. And they worshiped the beast, saying, who is like the beast? Who is able to make war with him? Great question. Who's going to be able to make war with Israel?
No one.
Verse 5.
Well,
And
I think
there was
David when it was talking about like the army that has never been seen before, and none shall come after it.
In what verse or what?
I don't know. I'm really stuck on like in Joel. I'm really stuck on like the fact that if he comes back, like we don't know if he's gonna have mercy or if he's gonna just execute like terrible righteous judgment on the Israelites. Like say like, yeah, you're my people, but like almost like a big brother steering a little brother away, from.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great thing to ponder, something we've been pondering. How many, because I think, the one thing about the Israelites that are different from the rest of us is I don't think the second Exodus is going to be optional for the Israelites. I think God is bringing them and God will purge them in the wilderness as he did the first Exodus, or at least purge those that want to continue to be rebellious, right? Because you got to think too, if God is a God of justice, if God is a God of equity, a lot of their current situation, they've been blinded. They don't even know, right? And so you would assume that he's going to give them all a chance. But I would agree that if they don't take that chance, I think that, as we saw in the first Exodus, the judgment will be swift and severe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we talked about that today. If you read Joel chapters 1, 2, and 3, and then go to Amos chapter 1, it's like a narrative there where he deals in Amos chapter 1 with the Israelites at the very end. He deals with the people around them, the other nations. So not only did he purge them in the wilderness, Korah, and his gang where the earth opened up, but it took 40 years for them to perish. And then so I think that there'll be judgment in the wilderness for the super rebellious Israelites. They'll never make it to Shalem, Jerusalem. But then there'll be another pack of them that are still, why are we listening to this guy? And talking about Doe and all that. And they'll get purged out in the end. I think there's a big purging and then there's another purging in the end. But in his mercy, he's setting this as an example to everyone else to see, how can you miss all of the miracles? Like, I mean, Kathy and I, we've read all these years reading, and all the years we would say, look, let's count up how many times that he came to them in the desert pleading with them. 20 something times he showed it. What was it, 23? Something like 23 times he showed his miracles to them, crying out to them. So his mercy never ended, even though he was killing them all along the way.
All right, so let's continue here. Verse 5. And there was given to him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given to him to continue 42 months. So that's interesting. Does that imply that David won't get his full power until a year and a half from his resurrection? I don't know. I don't know where they would get that from, but notice verse 6. He opened his mouth to in blasphemy against their God, to blaspheme his name, the name of JC, and his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven, right? And it was given to him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. And power was given to him over all kindreds and tongues and nations, right? So notice he has power over all of these heretics, right? Verse 8, and all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of the life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. So you notice, those of us who are going to be on Dao's team, worshiping the Most High God, our names are not written
Not in the book.
in the book of the life of the Lamb, right?
And how do we know that? Ezekiel chapter 8 and 9. But go ahead.
Okay, now notice this. It gets even better. Notice this is the patience, their patience. Notice verse 9. If any man has an ear, let him hear. He that leads into captivity shall go into captivity. Israel led people into captivity. He that killed with the sword must be killed with the sword. Israel destroyed the heathen nations, right? And notice what it says here. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. He's saying, just hold on, and we're going to be able to destroy these people, right? Okay, but now notice what happens after that. Verse 11. And I beheld another beast. Now notice where this beast comes up out of. This beast comes up out of the earth. This is a reference to David and his resurrection. Okay. And he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. Who did he speak like?
Dragon.
Oh, correct? Remember,
Yeah.
he's going to put his words in the mouth of that prophet. Okay? Verse 12. And he exercised all the power of the first beast before him when he ran Israel the first time, right? And he caused the earth and them which dwell therein to worship Israel.
Uh-oh.
Right? The first beast, right? The nation that has established, whose deadly wound was healed. Verse 13. Notice now, we just told you Dao is going to rain fire down from heaven. Brother, I have a question. In the Tanakh, who are the two prophets that brought fire down from heaven?
Blank.
Dao
Yeah.
with his altar, and Elijah with his judgment, correct?
Yeah, on the threshing floor. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so now
Elijah and Dao. All right.
let's see what the toilet is going to tell us about this beast, what this beast is going to do in the sight of all the people. You guys ready for it? Verse 13. And he does great wonders, so that he makes fire come down from heaven on earth in the sight of men. And by doing so, what is he going to do? Verse 14. He will deceive them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles, which he had the power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live. Verse 15. And he had power to give life to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the Most High God should be killed. Verse 16. And he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. And remember, in Ezekiel, you want the mark.
Yeah.
If you're on the correct team, Ezekiel chapter 9, right?
Yeah.
So notice they're telling you the truth here, right? That no man might be able to buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast, Yashar or Israel, right? Or the number of his name.
Now, you won't be able to buy or sell, right, unless you have the mark, because Ao is going to take care of all his children that have the mark.
Exactly. We're going to be chilling in Goshen. We're going to be chilling in David's camp in Goshen. Remember, don't think about Waco when you see it on the news. That story, Waco, notice it's 33 years ago to a T. They love the number 33, right? No surprise. They're bringing back documentaries and TV shows to remind you of this lunatic man named David who thought he was living in end times prophecy that included a conflict with the federal government. They kept Torah. They didn't eat pork. They kept the Sabbath, right? And they were wiped out by the American government. Don't fall for it, guys.
It'd be funny if he was a baby, like just born. Like if the story of JC kind of came true, and it was like he was a newborn with like a crown, talking to everyone with a mighty voice. It'd be crazy.
I'm assuming he's going to be 120, but we'll find out. We'll find out. As I said, I keep praying that he's coming to me, straight to me. Straight to me. You can have my office. I find out how he likes his coffee. We can get to work.
Yeah, next week we're going to talk about the logistics, Dao logistics.
Dao logistics, yeah, because I'm going to have a new job soon here, very soon.
Yeah, everyone's got. Stephanie's on here. I tell her all the time. She's just being primed up for Dao logistics.
Dao logistics. We got a lot of work to do. We got to gather the children of Ya'al from all four corners of the earth.
Oh,
all the great substance that we're going to leave with. We're rich. We're gonna be rich. I was telling my kids the other day. I was like, we're rich, guys. We're gonna be rich. All right, so let's continue to read this just to emphasize the
No more
blasphemy here.
cornflakes.
Yeah. All right. So verse 7. Okay, we did 17. Now here's wisdom. Okay, here it is. Verse 18. I
This is
used to think this was a reference to Edom, but that can't be true because it's their book, right? So here's wisdom. Let him that has understanding count the number of the beast. So the number of Israel. For it is the number of a man, Da'o, and his number is 666. So what we're going to do now, what we're going to do right now is we're going to go to Gematria, and we're going to write the serpent bearer.
Explain the serpent
bearer. Okay, so the serpent bearer is a reference to the 13th constellation that's referred to as Serpentarius. It's the title of my book that I'm going to be releasing on March 9th that goes over everything we've been discussing about all of these things and how Dao is the true Messiah. Okay, it's going to be free on Amazon. But that's where, I found the name, because the idea of the constellation is it's a man that's holding a serpent. And remember, Moses didn't believe the children of Israel would believe him. And so God gave him Aaron's staff, and he told him to throw it down in front of them to prove who he was. Da'o has that staff, Psalms 23. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. And when the temple is dedicated, even though David is the one dedicating it, it says that the only thing that was in the ark were the 2 tables of stone, because the staff was in Da'o's hand as he was dedicating the temple. And then it was buried with him, where it comforts him as he walks through the valley of the shadow of death, right? So when Da'o appears, the way we will know who he is he will have a staff that turns into a serpent. He is the serpent bearer. And when you put the serpent bearer into gematria, the Hebrew gematria is 666.
Okay, now do the math from 7,000 backwards.
In terms of where we are?
No, 7,000 minus 400, and you end up with
660. 660, 6,600. Yeah.
6,600.
Which, remember, there's 66 books in the toilet Bible that they give everybody, right? Because remember, 6,600 is 70, the morning vision, plus 62 until they're cut off, right? That gives you 132. 132 times 50 is 6,600. 400 years short, which is the Genesis 15:13 vision, right? The captivity here in America. So we have 5 years left, people. 5 years left until the second Exodus commences. And I am very much looking forward to meeting all of you who put your faith in the words of the Most High God and reject the doctrines of man. Hallelujah.
Only in
So
O.
if it's O,
I think that the name of the Most High God is Ao. Yeah. And it's something we've been praying to him about for a long time. There was 2 things we wanted: the Sabbath and his name. But we went with the Sabbath. We wanted the Sabbath more because we could always call him the Most High or Father, right? And we didn't even understand the power of the calendar,
like saying Alpha and Omega.
Exactly. And that's the blasphemy of the statement JC makes in Revelation when he says, I am Alpha and Omega. He's saying, I am God. And you notice that's what Revelation 13 said. Da'o is going to speak blasphemy against their God.
But it's like if you say like O, it's like saying Alpha and Omega. No, like.
Well, again, so Alpha and Omega are the Greek language, right? Is it Aleph? Is it the Paleo Hebrew? Is it the first and last letter? We don't know because we don't have the pure language, right? but I wouldn't be surprised at that, given that he does say, he tells us the beginning from the end.
I mean, yeah, there has to be a definite like reason that A for English, Hebrew, and the Greek are all like the first letters. But what I'm trying to figure out is what was Yah-O about? Because I remember you like reasoned it with someone coming up with it being Yah-O instead of Yahoo.
Yeah, so that's Ravenous Bird, and Brother Flavor from Clubhouse. when
And what
I
does
when I
that mean? Like
so they
Yah-O.
yeah so Yao so what they said, so I think they're correct. Their theory is that Yahuwah, and I repent for saying the name of false gods, is the Moabite god's name. And you notice the Sefer, right, which has the new toilet included in it. That's the name they use. So there's no way that's right? No way. Okay. And then on the Ravenous Bird, when they started to talk about Dao, right? You think about I'm sorry, Yao. And you think about that from he used Yeshiao, Yirmiyahu. Um, but the problem with Yao from my perspective was a couple things. First, in terms of the breathing, you're forcing the Y sound. Okay. Now, there was a lot of things that were really interesting about Yao. For example, in Africa, in Nigeria, in particular in Nigeria, all males who are born on Thursday are given the name Yao, which I find fascinating because we know Thursday is the true Sabbath, right? And so, why are they giving males born on that day the name Yao? And the way I know that is I had a classmate from law school whose name was Yao. And he it's spelled Yaw, but he would say it's not pronounced Ya, it's pronounced Yao. And I remember making jokes about Yao Ming, right? Can I write a check, right? So that's ingrained in my mind. And I went and looked up his birthday, and lo and behold, he was born on Thursday, right? And so that was really interesting about Yao for me. But you're forcing the Y sound when you breathe in and out through your mouth. And the other issue is the Messiah, David, Dao, must have the name of God in his name. And that's what made me say it's got to be Ao, because there's no Y in David anywhere.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, like the breathing, but it kind of like it's both beautiful, like both the ways I'm interpreting it, like the breathing, the right, and then the
Mhm.
like the forcing of it, because like when you hear about the word of the Almighty, you don't really like it doesn't come to you as second nature because it's not implemented in our brains like how it should be and how it used to be. But like we kind of have to force it. We gotta like force ourselves to wake up to be able to get through the day. And it's just like I don't know. It's hard to like put a definite pinpoint on what the truth about the Most High and His name is. Like it's so hard to figure out. But I get what you're saying about the breathing.
Another thing that's really interesting about the breathing, right? Because you have those doctrines where you're not supposed to say the name.
Yeah.
Right? Is that why? Is it something that it's not really pronounceable? It's you're breathing it, right?
Yeah.
But then, brother, I brought that up to Brother James, and he brought up a good point. He says, "Call me by my name."
Yeah.
So doesn't that
Like
imply that it is pronounceable? I don't
he
know.
says, "Command me." Like how could we command something that's not there unless He is there? But like going back to oh, like yeah, it's our breathing pattern, but at the same time, it's also like from the book of the what was it, John, First John. Like that's where it kind of trips me out. I'm like, I don't know anymore because like
What's in First John?
I am Alpha and Omega. Like
Saying though, see, to me, it's when you understand the true name, you you cannot hide from the blasphemy of the New Testament. Because a lot of the Israelites today that are swimming in the toilet, they say, "Oh, JC doesn't claim to be God." He's not God, right?
I mean,
That's how
he
they
doesn't
do that. They do that
because
mental gymnastics. But if
Alpha and
God's
Omega is
name,
just made up, like
okay,
from
but
Grecians.
sure, but if God's name is A-O, don't you think that that's what he's implying, or what the authors are implying with that statement? And he
I
makes the claim other places where who can forgive sins but God alone, right? And he pretends he has that authority, right? So I think, because as somebody who used to swim in the toilet, I had reconciled it with saying, "Oh, this is not God. This is just the word of God," right? But he himself claims to be God when you understand the true name.
Mhm.
So I can say for 26 years now, for 24 and a half of those years, we swam in the toilet. And, his name in the beginning of my walk was JC. Then it was Yahusha. Then it was Yahuwah. And one of our prayers every single day is, Father, lead us, guide us, and direct us in all truth, wisdom, knowledge, and above all, understanding of thy name and thy Torah, with discernment, shalom, and health, and provision, and let your malach surround us every day. That's a prayer that we say, but we were thirsty after his name. And I always go under the understanding, if the whole world is doing it, it's not of him. So when I look here and I look at Isaiah 26, trust in Lord forever, for in Yah, the Lord is everlasting strength. So let me, if I translate that, trust JC forever, for Yah, our Father, all right? And then it says JC is everlasting strength. So I know this is coming from the deception side. So if they're telling me his name is Yah, and Isaiah 38:11, I shall not see Yah, and we don't have it in the King James, but we have it in the New King James, where they suggest his name is Yah. So that's my first go-to, is if the world is saying it, the world is using it, because there's one thing he won't let you throw around and urinate on and tread on and trample on, is his name.
His true name.
Yo, you want to talk about getting killed? you, you want to talk about walking outside and having a meteor drop on your head, or a bus run you over in your front yard? It's just mess with his name.
And you got to think, as a super weapon, right? It's got to have been hidden away during this time,
Yeah.
because it's a super weapon. It's literally a super weapon. And like, I tell you, since we've got it, I mean, like, I can't wait for Tuesday. That's all I can say. I just cannot wait for Tuesday. And I really hope you all are starting to feel the same excitement that Brother James and I have been feeling, guys. We are on the cusp of witnessing the greatest story never told. We are going to witness the salvation of the Most High God with our own eyes. And as someone who grew up I was like, as a child, I had this fear of death that I can't even explain. And the idea that we will not see death, we will never experience the first death, because of the blessing that he's bestowed upon us to be alive at this time. And that's such a blessing. Like, we used to joke and say, like, when would we want to have been alive, swimming in the toilet when JC was around, right? The first Exodus. But it's really funny, of all the times in the scripture, there is no time that will compare to what we're about to witness.
And you know what the cherry on top of that is? You're saying, like, if you want to call it the chair, whatever, the pinnacle, let's say this. What's the pinnacle of what you just said? You will actually be able to work with Da'o in gathering Ya'o Sharal. For 5 years, you're gonna work with them. You're gonna work with Ao. He's gonna provide everything. Can you imagine what it's gonna take to gather them from all over the earth, bring them here to Assyria, eastern United States, and house them, feed them, clothe them, and get everybody ready to start marching west? Why the whole world is shaking their fist at you, and the anger is getting worse by the day, by the minute, but you're gonna be working side
And,
by
rem- and just to emphasize that point, there's nothing the world hates more than Israelites, the true Israelites, and
yeah.
fake Jews. And those are going to be combined into one, right? So think about the anger that's going to follow. And next week, we're going to talk about Dao logistics. Same time, the last Sabbath before the resurrection of the Messiah. Hallelujah. Hallelujah, guys. And keep the receipts, because I know everyone's saying, no, don't set Flavor today. You can't set dates because Flavor's still swimming in the toilet. It's like, no, you can set dates. Amos 3:7. Amos 3:7. Okay.
Well, I always told my daughter, sweetie, we're going to see the Messiah come. But if I don't see him, you're going to see him for sure. And the truth of the matter is, we're all going to see him.
For my brother or sister down there, EBQ Chi, just tune in Tuesday morning and ponder why that blood moon is so different from all the ones you can find on the internet right now when you Google images of blood moon.
All right, I got a question real quick. We got Stephanie and Rock, and I see the I break just came on. But Stephanie and the Rock, you guys got any questions? I mean, you guys are sitting patiently. Or you got anything to add? You got something, a scripture. Please help us with a scripture here. If you guys want to come on, please come on.
I got a question. Back to the Joel 2:31. This is for Yirmiyahu. Is it do you think that son that it's talking about? I know you said that it's like plagiarized, but do you think it is the son of righteousness in Malachi 4:2?
Well,
Or do you think those are two different sons?
he's on mute right now. But anyway, I think that's a great that's a great thought right now. Is the son of righteousness? Now that I could understand, but the sun being darkened, that's at another time, because I think specifically, um, I think specifically that is for the
It's really interesting
blood.
theory. That's an interesting theory because the way you could read that is you're saying that the Messiah would be obscured.
Like he'd be favored?
It'd be hidden. No, like it's be a mystery. Like think about his visage being marred, right? Because when you go to Blue Letter, it's darkness, dark obscurity, like hidden, right? Like a mystery kind of thing, clouded, right? So that's an interesting theory because that's why I started to have issues with it because the sun hasn't been darkened, and if we're talking about Tuesday here for the blood moon, you're gonna say, well, oh, the sun's not hasn't been darkened, right?
Well, that's like kind of saying the sun's never stood still. Like we don't know that for a fact. Because what if it was darkened? Like, because you know how thunder, like sometimes the Most High gets mad at like his people and will like send thunder, lightning, all this, and break down their groves, even though he's not even here, right? Or the Messiah or anything like that. But like we see in Joshua that he said, stand still upon Gibeon, and it's a capital S. I don't know if that has anything to do with like Malachi 4:2 son or any other son. But I just think that's a really like
Well,
Because
intricate thing.
if you think about like that song, "The Sun Will Come Out Tomorrow," bet your bottom dollar, right? To me, they're mocking because you look at that Amos prophecy. What is that? Amos 8:9. Let me go there.
Well, Ao refers to Tao as his son. And I'm trying to find it right now.
He refers to him as the son.
His son.
His
Oh,
son, and then
his
there's
son.
also all the sun symbolism that I already went over too, right? So there's
Yeah.
both. There's both present.
Ao refers to his as a
Because
mother.
what if David is like being referred to as the son of righteousness? Because it says, "But unto you that fear my name shall the Son of Righteousness arise with healing in his wings," and then it says Elijah is going to be sent.
Yeah. No, I got no issue with that. I got no
Exactly.
issue with that. Yeah, and he's also referred to as the light. And the day 4, right, where he creates the sun, that is referencing David's first kingdom. Absolutely. And I think that symbolism is very, very clear. But this is why I just want to go to Amos and read that prophecy of why I think the sun will actually be darkened.
Well,
I just think it's going to be before Exodus and maybe before Gog Magog.
before you go to that, just real quick, 2 times he refers my son as Ao Sharal and David. Both of them referred to that, but go ahead.
Okay, so Amos chapter 8, verse 9, and it shall come to pass in that day, says that I will cause the sun to go down at noon, and I will darken the earth in the clear day. Verse 10, and I will churn your feasts into mourning, and all your songs into lamentation, and I will bring up sackcloth upon all loins and baldness upon every head, and I will make it as the mourning of an only son, and as the end thereof as a bitter day. And you think about that. After the darkness plague in Egypt, he strikes the firstborn, right? And so you see that language of not only the sun going down, but then in verse 10, I will make it as the mourning of an only son. And so I do feel like we might see that plague of darkness repeat itself right before the Exodus commences.
Mm-hmm.
Onlys like my Gadal and all these people, they don't think it's David. They think it's going to be of the lineage of David. And see, that's the thing. They believe,
All right.
but they don't actually believe.
Let me ask you a question. If Joel chapter 2 had 2 things inserted, would it change all of the way that these people think? If you put in the names of David and Elijah in there, you think it would have a bearing on them? I think it would absolutely, because they're walking around with Cyrus in their pocket. And it just doesn't, like Cyrus. You cannot have a heathen God that's sacrificing his children to other gods, all the things, worshiping Marduk and all this, and he's my son. I'm going to set this guy up to bring my children home. Are you kidding me? What creator are you worshiping? But this is what it says, and it's like when I was in the book, I always said, look, he can't be wrong. It's me. I'm just not understanding. What I don't know. We've been through the Bible over, I don't know, we lost count, maybe 20 times over the year. We've read it from front to back. And every time we would read and we would see these anomalies, my thing was keep reading. He's going to tell us what it is. We're going to learn. Well, I didn't know it was going to take 24 years before he opened our eyes. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Better late than never. Hallelujah.
Oh, you got that right. How sweet. Jackie Gleason, when I was a kid, how sweet it is.
Same time, same place next week for DAO Logistics. We'll talk about the greatest logistical feat ever that the world has ever seen. But until then, guys, don't forget about Tuesday. Okay, Tuesday morning, tune in to the words of the Most High being fulfilled before your eyes. What a blessing.
Hallelujah, yo. Thank you all for coming, spending the time. And doesn't matter if there's one or none. He's got the word for somebody out there to touch him.
Amen. Hallelujah.
All
Shalom.
praises to the Most High. Shalom and Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.
All right, Baruch.
Baruch.